that was sports.
Sports.
All right, let's quickly jump into entertainment, where recently we've all been watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Prime Video.
Now. Full disclosure, everybody.
Yes.
I think we are all of, big fans of Mr. Glover.
Mr. Glover, Mr. Childish Gambino.
You know, oh wait.
No, I was just joking.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, whoa. So he's the guy that I think, cannot really do much wrong.
I disagree. Like, I'm not of that level of a fan. He can do wrong. I didn't like Atlanta. I didn't like the pacing of Atlanta.
I admittedly have not finished Atlanta either.
Does that not say everything, by the way?
But it's it was a different time.
Okay,
there was
good.
other TV shows.
I'm just saying that I don't follow that, but
and whatnot.
And
he can do wrong to me.
And plus, because we've been following him since Community days.
Yeah.
Since
it was great on
beginning of Childish Gambino days, and like honestly, it's great that he's had the opportunity to start making so much more stuff. Because like with Swarm, he got to join Star Wars. And
he's gonna keep
doing Star Wars now. So yeah, I have to say there was a lot of hype with this series coming in that they were going to be doing the adaptation
of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which is famously, the movie that started it all, that launched 1,000 ships of Brangelina.
Did we really need a Mr. and Mrs. Smith remake though?
So this is a very good question. I don't think we ever needed it, but it does come at a great time in the sense that the twist that they have turned it into. And before, I guess, we delve into that a bit more, I wanted to acknowledge, I guess, what immediately got the interest the first time around when the news broke. It's the idea that Donald was going to work with Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Yes, of Fleabag.
Of Fleabag fame, who recently was also in the latest
Indiana Jones
that none of us liked. Not her fault.
She did great.
She didn't help she was probably the one thing that was holding it together. But then also, didn't she write? She wrote a bit as well.
She's written for some shows like Killing Eve.
No, but did she write for Indiana Jones?
I'm not sure.
Anyway, the point being is, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, stick around for the last 20 minutes of the movie and just see how that works for you. Okay. It was announced that they were going to work together. They had previously worked together on the Han Solo movie.
Because she voiced her droid.
And it was nice banter. It was fun, and she's a fantastic creator. Yes, you're right. She has written on other shows like Killing Eve, and just one of those. If we're talking about new Hollywood.
Almost like a triple threat, so to speak.
100%.
Like Donald, essentially.
100%. Yeah. So you think it's a great marriage, it's all going to work out. And then all of a sudden the news breaks that, she stepped out of the project. And I think myself and Kat, we were very psyched for it.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just fell through and we were like,
what does that mean? Well, because again, they cite creative differences. Like, apparently they're still on good terms.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe it was genuinely just they thought it was going one way and then it went another.
So this is the thing. So recently he spoke about, I guess, what came down to it. And it's very interesting, I guess, if we think about...
So he co-created it too, right?
Well, so he's a co-creator with his brother.
Yes.
And she was also going to be a co-creator
and star,
writer,
producer,
and possibly showrunner. Which, if we're talking about the hierarchy of the roles within TV, you want to be like a co-creator,
executive.
Then you want to be an EP, and then you want to be or a showrunner, because that's pretty much the line of power that comes through.
Yeah.
But then ultimately, what happened is between them, so I want to also point at this point in time, the writing staff, the writer's room for the show is interestingly predominantly female, as opposed to other shows usually, like I'm quoting Ted Lasso is probably the closest example that I know of, where it's somewhat close to parody, but or it's like a 60-40 split.
Yes.
But then also you got to note that the creators, the co-creators are part of that writing staff too, and then you've got some then you got other the female writing staff that took on more and more as the seasons progressed.
Mm-hmm.
right? So here you've got the flip side, the other version, right? So it's alleged that in one of the articles that was written about it, so when he was speaking to the Hollywood Reporter, she basically rewrote the pilot, and it's one of those things where if you saw her show, you think it's amazing, right? And knowing Fleabag and that it's wonderful, but he goes, that wasn't my style.
Yes.
And so ultimately, you got to say that, and he did make a point that, if he would think that if it was more of her creative spin, he would give her the show. But the way that it was written, he had said that, she wasn't really into it. So
in terms of his direction.
Stuff. And so she left. And the idea as well that there's two captains that are trying to run the show. And ultimately you need to have one clear direction. If you don't get that alignment, it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's essentially getting those two captains, those two superpowers who are both respective in the directions that they have taken with their own projects. But it was essentially a clash of there's just too much power going between them. And like, I'm sure they like, Phoebe left on good terms, but yeah, it's just a matter of like, we have to stick to one way. Yeah. Despite how big names the big of names that they are. And
arguably as well as probably why I alluded to the fact of co-creator and that it's more of the money that gets put into it, right? So Donald had spoken that he had reached out to Brad Pitt, asked for advice, which is arguably as close as you get to kind of like the IP side of, when you're talking about that franchise. It's not really a franchise, that IP, I guess. Yes. And how you can appropriate that for the modern day. Anyway, so okay. all that background aside, the series released, I think it's a month ago now.
Yes.
It's probably the one of the bigger releases of this year to date.
Yes.
And truth be told, I loved it. I thought it was real. Like, it's a slow burner.
It is.
And we will omit spoilers from this
we don't
as best as possible. But I really liked how the story developed. You're trying to, if you're working against an established story as well and the star power that's there, you have to kind of skew it a bit differently for the modern day. And I believe that Maya Erskine, the way that it was developed for her and what she brought to the table, like, I just can't even see a Phoebe Waller-Bridge version now. Yes. Unless I would also love to see like her version of it, if it would be great in some other time, which would feature a different Mr. Smith. Don't know who that would be, but that would also equally be great.
See, because I guess the thing to justify this adaptation was that, of course, they had to skew it slightly different. Because of course you immediately think of the Brangelina, like smooth, sexy style that like it co-founded that sort of espionage.
Gambino ain't smooth.
More on that in a bit.
That espionage genre, and so then when it came to like having Donald, and then when he brought in Maya Erskine, who herself, she's a great actress.
I've never heard of her.
If you haven't seen +1, it's a great rom-com. It has a
10/15 is apparently that's arguably her breakout, and it's a really funny show.
Yes, that too. But yeah, +1 is it's pretty good rom-com. One of the modern ones that I'm like, it's actually like it has contributed to the rom-coms are coming back. So to speak. Essentially it's like, because that both Donald and Maya have leaned more towards comedic stuff essentially, right? Yeah. And so in a way, I think that this adaptation had to kind of skew almost to like comedic, like dark action comedy style more so. Because again, I've seen a lot of complaints of people being like, "Oh, they should have cast these two actors and actors who are even hotter."
Why are we gonna do it? Why are we gonna do something that we've already seen? Yes, like that doesn't make sense.
We don't need a rehash.
What I loved about this was the awkwardness. That's what I really. That's what I really like, because it's
the concept of it all.
It feels more real. It feels like and I'm probably giving away a bit too much though, but down the line where they're arguing because they do develop a relationship, no spoilers and whatnot, they have real arguments, and I would challenge every single relationship that that has been together for more than, I would say, a year. Let's be real, because the honeymoon period and everything. You've had one of those arguments. you've been in that conversation. You've seen the craziness that your other partner is exhibiting, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and that's what's quite relatable to it, I think.
Yes.
And that's kind of, I think, where we're at now. We don't want to see the, you know, the unattainable, wow, like, you know, just watching two really hot people like getting it on, right? Yes. Like there is.
You don't think Gambino was hot? I thought his jackets were hot.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. But bro, this is the one that was talking to me. What were we talking about? We were talking about Drive to Survive, right? So that's also back on.
Yes.
And he's like, we were literally talking about the hotness of drivers and how that drives to sponsorship. This is the exact conversation we're having.
But you're right. Like it worked just because of, you could have not called it Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and
it could have been a different.
It could have been, even though you say, wait, I've seen this premise somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think it operated because they were in the same wavelength in terms of like what the acting dynamic was, right? And like to me,
they had great chemistry too.
Yeah. To me, the visual, although I call it the DEI of Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
The what?
Diversity, equality, and inclusion. Like anyway,
we love to see it. What's the problem with that?
My visual is like, Donald, why you gotta wear those short shorts, man? Like,
so here we go. Come on, man. So here's another thing I'd like to
wear shorts that short, man.
Here's another thing I'd like to report. Okay.
And also, do you remember when just the way he moves, like?
Okay. So remember how I talked about the predominantly female writers' room?
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
What, they pushed the short shorts on him?
The way that's his wardrobe choice. No. So, the way that it was said, it's like there's the feminine gaze, which is when you really think about it. Hello, Angelina Jolie. Think about that high split, the skirt with the with the dress, with the when they were dancing, and then she's pulling a gun or a knife or something like that. I can't remember but you know what I'm talking about, right? And like how she scowls and she looks so freaking hot and everything like that. So you gotta make it a bit fun for like it's probably a how do I say this, a commentary, if anything, and. There's been other conjecture in wider society where about now this female gaze has now come in and, the pot calling kettle black about stuff. But I would beg to say, okay, well, one, you got to really kind of believe yourself a bit.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go that way, so
especially with those legs.
So kudos to Donald, right? Because like he wears that shit anyway on the reg.
He does.
So one, it's not that different, right? But
it's not what you would like visualize like a traditional spider be,
which is why it works.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You know what? If this has got anything to do with the idea that eventually James Bond is going to be black, I'm down for it.
It's not going to be Donald.
And you know what? No, it's not going to be Donald, but it could be like, it's the whole thing. If you've got, I actually do think there's probably something in there where if you're a prevalent voice in the entertainment industry or whatever industry, right? And you're trying to pave a way forward for your people.
Yes.
Then why would you not,
Yeah, especially you have to branch out because to be able to like say what you will about diversity of that little anecdote that you added in, but it's necessary to see other people that look like us that aren't just cis white get into those kinds of roles, get into other roles that aren't just put upon us.
And also, so you made the comment, Kev, when we were watching it, it's this idea of like, oh, he's not selling the action star thing. Well, I think he's selling it with the way that, it's his job, but he also gets freaked out. Like there was this part where in the show where he just like kind of freaked out. Which is hilarious because that's his quintessential comedy move. Referencing Community, of referencing Troy Barnes.
Yes.
Cannot wait to see the movie, by the way.
Yes.
And let's be real, if I'm going to be honest and possibly revealing a bit too much. Kev, do you want to talk about your incident with the cockroach earlier today?
No.
Where was it?
No, man. I don't want it all. We're out of time, to be honest. Okay, do we think there'll be a season 2?
Yes.
Really?
100%.
What's the, like we know
not
the story.
Not to spoil it for the people and for Kat who hasn't seen the last 2 episodes. Of course there will be. Because again, I think they've made the series for the time that it is. And ultimately, I realized the other point I was going to make is there is a certain audience that they're trying to capture. And let's be real. And he mentioned it in an interview, actually. I was watching it. It was an ET interview where he thought he's not a fan of remakes to begin with, but he knew that movie was the basis of a date night movie.
Yeah.
So how cool would it be to make like a date night TV show where, you know, your girl, your boy can sit together and watch something equally that's going to be of interest that, you know, that's not like bloody reality TV. That's not necessarily sport, because there's only so much I can take, Kev. I'm you know, I give a lot in that space.
Yeah.
So he's completely phasing out because he's just like, he doesn't want to even, he wouldn't want to borrow it, right? But, you know, that's like...
Everyone I talked to liked it. So I think, no, it was good. Enjoyed it.
And it did pretty well in the charts in terms of, it was viewed pretty well. So...
Amazing backup cast. Stellar.
Oh, the guest stars,
Guest stars. I know we're running on time, but guest stars are like, I highly recommend, you know, if you've seen it, well, drop a comment on your thoughts.
Especially because Donald has the pull to get a lot of guest stars, like after Atlanta.
100%.
And then, of course, a lot of
Michaela Cohen was amazing. Oh, you've seen that one, yeah? Okay, cool. Just checking.
No, I know she was in the guest list.
Yeah. Anyway.
And Paul Dano.
Watch it. I highly recommend.